Peace and love, brothers and sisters within the Kingdom of England, Empire of Albion. This is your brother de Belmont from the illustrious Noble House of Belmont, and it is a beautiful evening to be able to be out here to speak amongst fellow kin. And I know there's been quite some time since I had the opportunity to come on here and do a long form video. Um, this video today on this November 12th, 2935 of the Berber calendar, which is its equivalent to your 2025 Gregorian calendar. And like always, here in the realm of the Empire of England or the Empire of the English, I would love to say it is a beautiful time to be alive. I had to give honors to our King of England from the Royal House of Plantagenet, our queens, as well as the heirs, the subjects, the long lost brothers and sisters, and good people on the realm who don't know who they are yet. But hopefully, as time goes on, they continue to keep doing the great work. They will come to accept they are those long lost people and the most beautiful and illustrious empire that the world has ever seen. And the world as a whole is waiting for them to wake up from their deep sleep and to go back to be those good people who have been known since time immemorial to return. With that being said, today's lesson pretty much came to me because of lately I've been having dreams and visions about King Edward I. And something told me the ancestors must be leading me to do this lesson because, I can't stop getting his name and the information that he have done out of my head. So today I think it's a good time to go ahead and do it. The night is nice and cool, and after having a lot of transitional energy uh, move out of the way in atmosphere. I think it's definitely a good time to be able to do this lesson. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started, brothers and sisters. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to continue to keep doing the great work. And don't forget to check out the Third Temple English Church from England. Like, share, subscribe over there as well. So let's go ahead and get started. King Edward I of England. And for those of you who don't know, King Edward I is from the Royal House of Plantagenet. He is the oldest son of Henry III, who is the brother, who is the son of King John I, who's the signer of the Magna Carta. So King Edward I is the grandson of King John I. All right, so it says Edward I, also known as Edward Longshanks and the Hammer of the Scots, was King of England from 1272 to 1307. Concurrently, he was the Lord of Ireland, and from 1254 to 1306, ruled Gascony as Duke of Aquitaine in his capacity as a vassal of the French king. All right. And for those of you who don't understand, like I said, they are also too related, going back to the Kingdom of France based off of the House of Anjou. All right. So before his succession to the throne, he was commonly referred to as the Lord Edward, the eldest son of Henry III. Edward was involved from an early age in the political intrigues of his father's reign. In 1259, he briefly sided with the baronial reform movement, supporting the provisions of Oxford. After reconciling with his father, he remained loyal throughout the subsequent armed conflict known as the Second Barons' War. After the Battle of Lewes, Edward was held hostage by the rebellious barons, but escaped after a few months and defeated the baronial leader Simon de Montfort at the Battle of Evesham in 1265. When 2 years, the rebellion was extinguished and England pacified, Edward left to join the Ninth Crusade to the Holy Land in 1270. He was on his way home in 1272 when he was informed of his father's death. Making a slow return, he reached England in 1274 and was crowned at Westminster Abbey. Edward spent much of his reign reforming royal administration and common law. Through extensive legal inquiry, he investigated the tenure of several feudal liberties. The law was reformed through a series of statutes regulating criminal and property law, but the king's attention was increasingly drawn towards military affairs after suppressing a minor conflict in Wales in 1276-1277. Edward responded to a second one in 1282-83 by conquering Wales. He then established English rule, built castles and towns in the countryside, and settled them with English people. After the death of the heir to the Scottish throne, Edward was invited to arbitrate a succession dispute. He claimed feudal suzerainty over Scotland and invaded the country, and an ensuing First Scottish War of Independence continued after his death. Simultaneously, Edward found himself at war with France, who were a Scottish ally, after King Philip IV confiscated the Duchy of Gascony. The duchy was eventually recovered, but the conflict relieved English military pressure against Scotland. By the mid-1290s, extensive military campaigns required high levels of taxation, and this met with both lay and ecclesiastical opposition in England. In Ireland, he had extracted soldiers, supplies, and money, leaving decay, lawlessness, and a revival of the fortunes of his enemies in Gaelic territories. When the king died in 1307, he left to his son Edward II a war with Scotland and the other financial and political burdens. Edward's temperamental nature and height made him an intimidating figure. He often instilled fear in his contemporaries, although he held a respect of his subjects for the way he embodied the medieval ideal of kingship as a soldier, an administrator, and a man of faith. Modern historians are divided in their assessment of Edward. Some have praised him for his contribution to the law and administration, but others have criticized his uncompromising attitude towards his nobility. Edward is credited with many accomplishments, including restoring royal authority over the reign of Henry III and establishing Parliament as a permanent institution, which allowed for a functional system for raising taxes and reforming the law through statutes at the same time. He's often condemned for vindictiveness, opportunism, and untrustworthiness in his dealings with Wales and Scotland, coupled with colonialist approach to their governance and to Ireland, and for anti-Semitic policies leading to the 1290 Edict of Expulsion, which expelled all Jews from England. All right, and that just is a quick breakdown of King Edward I's history in regards to who he is, what he has done, and the mark that he has left. Now, this is just not the end of this lesson. This is just the beginning to kind of give you an idea of who King Edward I was. All right, now we're going to go to another site because we need to get a little better description of him, because based off this image, you don't really think this is him because of, from off of the next page that we're going to go to how they describe him. And we're going to go to the English monarchs, kings and queens from the website called English Monarchs from the UK. All right. And it says the dynasties of the kings and queens of England. This site is designed to bring to life as vividly as possible the history of the kings and queens of England from Egbert. All right, so that's going all the way to the 700s, King Egbert. Then you have who's known as the first king of the English, who reigned 802 to 839. All right, so my bad confusion of the time frame, 802 to 839. Through over 1,000 years of the rich and varied tapestry of English history to the throne's present occupant. And of course, it says Elizabeth II, but it's not updated to say Charles III on here. But we're going to go with it because of the intricate work that they have done and details that they have been able to present with historical facts from sources that you yourself, brothers and sisters, can go and verify. All right, so it says it contains a biography of each English monarch along with many illustrations, maps, where applicable, and genealogical tables in an easy to follow format arranged by dynasties. We also take a look at the Tower of London, the crown jewels, and the royal residences. All right, so we're going straight to the Plantagenets because that's where King Edward I come from. All right, so the House of Plantagenet has its origins in the cadet branch of the original Counts of Anjou, the dynasty established by Fulk I of Anjou at the beginning of the 10th century. The Plantagenet dynasty ruled England for over 300 years, from 1154 to 1485. Now pause. Now it's mighty coincidental that the Plantagenet dynasty ended in 1485, but you had the Age of Discovery happen in 1492. So something had to have took place from that time frame in regards to why you don't know this history in regards to who were the reigning parties from 1492 and prior. And why did they take over the territory that we call America? Because clearly no one knew anything about America until after the fall of the Plantagenet dynasty. So we need to take that in consideration. All right, so let's continue. It says they were a remarkable family, providing England with 14 of its kings. The surname Plantagenet, which was to become one of the most famous in England, seems to have derived from a nickname adopted by Godfrey or Geoffrey, Count of Anjou, the father of Henry II. It refers to his habit of wearing a sprig, a broom, or planta genista in his helmet. All right, so that's what they say where they come from. But let's for sake of argument, we want to take that as face value. Says the surname, the dynasty produced such varied characters as the energetic Henry II, arguably one of England's greatest monarchs, and his legendary son, Richard the Lionheart, who led the Third Crusade against Saladin into the Holy Land. The highly aesthetic Henry III and his son, the indomitable Edward I, who conquered Wales and became known as the Hammer of the Scots for his campaigns into that country, where he fought William Wallace and Robert the Bruce, the most famous of Scotland's sons, and Henry V, the conqueror of France, who bequeathed the diadems of both countries to his pious and ineffectual son, Henry VI. The Plantagenets, described by Bacon as a race much dipped in their own blood, finally destroyed themselves in the bloody dynastic struggle we know of as the Wars of the Roses. Later, Plantagenets became divided into the houses of Lancaster and York, which descended through their sons of King Edward III. The Yorkist King Richard III was the last of his house when he was killed in battle on Bosworth Field to be displaced by the Tudors. It was the end of an era. The male line of Plantagenets became extinct with the execution in 1499 of Edward, Earl of Warwick, the son of George, Duke of Clarence, in the reign of Henry VII, the first Tudor. Pause. So as we can see that many of our dynasties, including the Angevin Empire, fell because of family feuding. Whether this was family who had got married in, or this was family based off of blood, it still came to show the demise of a family dynasty that, like they said, it produced 14 of England's kings. Now, like I said, which also was fallen, also can be risen when it comes down to time, preparation in regards to being in the proper atmosphere environment that's conducive and is needed for the rise of a long lost dynasty. We'll talk about that later. So let's go to Edward I, because that's what this video is about. And as you're showing the descent from Henry II, Richard I, King John. Now, all these images, they said, they are, in my opinion, are whitewashed. Because once we go to, which we're going to see, to Edward I, as we can see, we're going to read the description. Now, the word and terminology that these people, our ancestors used during these times were intentional. Nothing was left for interpretation. So we need to take that into consideration, especially when we go to the origin of words. So Edward I, known as Edward Longshanks, once again, often considered the greatest of the Plantagenets. Edward I was born on the evening of June 17, 1239, at Westminster Palace, the firstborn child of Henry III in Eleanor Province. He was named Edward in honor of his father's favorite saint, the Saxon king Edward the Confessor. And for those of you who don't know about Edward Confessor, definitely need to take a look into our forefather, because he prophesied about our fall and our rise. Edward was a delicate child and suffered from a life-threatening illness in 1246, which his devoted mother, Eleanor Province, nursed him through the Bailey Abbey, or the Bolu Abbey. I think that's how that pronounced out. Among Richard's childhood friends was his cousin Henry of Almond, who was the son of Henry III's brother, Richard, Earl of Cornwall. Henry of Almond would remain a close companion of Edward throughout both the Civil War that followed and later during the Crusades. Now, here's the good part, because we need to understand his complexion in regards to how they described him, so that way we can start cleaning up this confusion. So Edward the First was a tall man of 6 feet 2 inches, with long arms and legs, from which his nickname Longshanks were derived. His hair was black, like his provincial's mother or provincial's mother. You'll see his hair don't look black in this picture, so definitely it couldn't be him. His complexion swarthy, and his eyes fiery in anger. Okay, so it says his complexion was swarthy. Definitely is not swarthy complexion whatsoever. Let's go to the etymology of swarthy. Etymon line, swarthy, dark colored, tawny, especially in reference to skin. 1580s, an unexplained alteration of swarthy 1570s from swart. All right, let's go to swart. Old English. Now, it would be right to accept that this is how they described it, from these are English people utilizing their own definition or their own words. Old English, swart, black, being of a dark hue. All right. So he's going to be dark hued. All right, let's go back to it. He inherited a drooping eyelid from his father, Henry III. Edward spoke with a pronounced lisp, but possessed a fierce Plantagenet temper in full measure. The Song of Lewis in 1264 described him as a leopard, an animal regarded as particularly powerful and unpredictable. All right, so let's see if we can find a better image of him. After going to Penn Libraries University, MS Road 1066, which is the genealogical chronicle of the kings of England to Edward IV, circa 1461. So this is when they made this, 1461, around that time. All right, this is right before the fall of the Plantagenet dynasty. All right, and we're saying Edward I is a descendant or a king of the Plantagenet dynasty. So it was good and safe to say that how they interpret him on here will fit more of the description that we see here in regards to him being swarthy, complexion, all right, and hair being dark or whatever. So let's go and see what we see from the MS Roll 1066. Thanks a lot, King Clifford Jefferson, for bringing out this page once again. For those of you who don't know, he brought it back to the forefront, so therefore we can see the ancient kings of ancient Britain, which they call ancient Brighton or ancient Albion, or however you want to call it today, but still, right and exact. All right, so it says, likely produced in London. All right, so this was produced in London, likely, in the third quarter of the 15th century. The genealogical chronicle of the kings of England to Edward IV, known as UPenn MS Roll 1066, as a compilational tour de force of the greatest hits of medieval historians, assimilating the work of Godfrey of Monmouth, William of Malmesbury, and Ranulph Higden, among others. The roll is an imposing physical presence, a staggering 37 feet and 13 membranes long. It chronicles the lineage of the Yorkist King Edward IV, beginning with Adam and Eve and ending with Edward IV, 1461. This chronicle also has complex illustrative schema containing 174 bust-length portraits in color, 5 mandalas with tinted full-length portraits, and 80 rondelles containing crowns, as well as several classic chronicle type scenes, including the temptation of Adam, Noah after the flood, and the city of Jerusalem. The Latin text is written in a standard late medieval Anglican hand. All right, and it says you can access the full edition. So we're not going to go through every last one of the kings in this video. The king we're going to emphasize, put our focus on, is King Edward I. And to find King Edward I, he's going to be, we see, membrane 12, because that's from William II to Edward II. All right. And so to read these membranes, let it pop up first. You have to click on the colored outline. And then you can drag it with the mouse. All right, so just know where we starting off at, who we are at. I'm gonna click on this is King William II, like they say, William II to Edward II. Look at this complexion. As you can see, it's ruddy, brown, to try to keep it in there. Look like some folks try to take it out of there. Go all the way down. Looks more ruddy, brown skin, brown or tan. It's the same. Just looks similar to the parchment, so like they didn't fill it in or whatever. But this they did brown until, like I said, that's brown shade. All these kings look the same. Red, dark red, brown, whatever. Okay, now this right here is, let's see, King Edward. It's Edward the First. Brothers and sisters, so as you're gonna see, you see the outside appearance of the parchment, and then look at his complexion. That's brown. That brown, and in this case, swarthy, because swarthy is dark colored tawny. See tawny. I said we're going from what they described in. Swarthy in his eyes, fire and anger. His hair was black, dark hair, as we can see, tawny, what it's called swarthy. Excuse me. Let's go down and see what tawny means. Tawny, tan colored, letter especially brown with dark or dull yellowish orange. All right. Oops. Tawny, swarthy, same. So how do you go from this, which we see was created in at least by 1461, to that? So this is definitely, as we can see, is a fake. This is the real Edward the First. This is a fake. This is an imposter. At least they left us with this proper information in regards to how he was described. Now, many folks may say like this doesn't mean anything. It does. It means a lot. You know, once you start changing the image of the people, it changes the effect of how folks take them, especially for who this information is pertains to. In the case, the long lost English heirs and descendants from the Kingdom of England, Great Britain, who are here in the territory we call America, which actually encompassed the English Empire. All right. And it's good and be good to know this because what we're going to talk about King Edward the First is what he did in regard to confirming what his grandfather, King John the First, did in regards to the Magna Carta. What King Edward the First did was confirm that Magna Carta in his statute called Confirmatio Cartarum. So Confirmatio Cartarum means the confirmation of the charter. All right. And I'm going to get there in a second. So once again, this is King Edward I. As you can see, his complexion, swarthy, brown, tawny, however you want to call it. That's just like how they describe it. And this is from the MS Scroll 1066, which we know was created at least by the year 1461, which during the reign of King Edward IV from the Royal House of Plantagenet. So, and Edward I is a Plantagenet king. So this is how the Plantagenet kings look. They all looked just like their forebear who started the Plantagenet dynasty, Folk the First. You know, swarthy. All right, which means brown, black, dark, how you want to describe it. In this case, those folks in America who you would call Negro or African American. All right, but he has they are bearded, what they call barbarians, forked beard warlike, aka Berbers. So they are Berbers. Ethnically, they are Berbers. All right, let's continue. So first, I wanted to show you this book called The English Liberties or the Freeborn Subjects Inheritance from the Raptors Rare Bookstore. All right, and this book was done um, by Henry Kerr. Now look at the price of this book, 15,000. Now, for those of you who understand, the importance of preserving our heritage, you see why they have these high numbers on them, because it's very important to have. These aren't any relics that you're just going to squander or just any old Joe Schmo is going to get and preserve. No, important individuals are going to get these documents. And in this case, for those of us who want to preserve our heritage and our tradition, our culture, or customary practices, you're going to get everything that encompasses you. So this is, once again, Henry Kerr's English Liberties or the Free-Born Subject Inheritance. All right. And this was printed in London by G. Larkin for Benjamin Harris at the Stationers' Arms in Anchoy in the Piazza under the Royal Exchange in 1680. So this is all during the time when this territory, America, was still underneath, which we call English control, before it got transitioned over to British control in 1707. All right, so it says first edition of one of the very first law books printed in colonial America. It contains the first American printing of Magna Carta and other fundamental documents of individual liberty in Anglo-American law. Small octavo contemporary calf, in excellent condition with light wear to the crown of the spine. The auction records show that there has not been a first edition offered in the 20th century, a rare landmark with significantly influenced the American colonies. So this is a rare gem, brothers and sisters. I'm going to read the rest of it, but I want you to take a look. The English Liberties by Henry Kerr. English Liberties were the free-born subjects inheritance containing Magna Carta, the Petition of Right, the Habeas Corpus Act, and divers other most useful statutes with large comments upon each of them. To the proceedings and appeals of Martha, the work and the power of the parliaments, the qualifications necessary for such as should be chosen to the great trusts, plain directions for all persons concerned in ecclesiastical courts, and how to prevent or take off the writ of de excommunicate capiendo, as also the oath and duty of grand and petty juries. 3, all the laws against companies and prophecies, dissenters, and some blah, blah, blah. I can't read the rest, but I'm quite sure you get the gist once you get the book. You can find the archive online at a version of it. But it says, Kerr intended his English liberties to provide uneducated and inexperienced English persons, that means you, brothers and sisters, with documents and information about the law and their rights, praising England's fundamental laws as coeval with governmental with government and describing the Magna Carta as declaratory of the principal grounds of the fundamental laws and liberties of England, celebrating law in another piece as second only to the gospel. You hear that? So you're celebrating law in another piece as second only to the gospel. So the Bible, and this is what you brothers and sisters should have, especially you English descendants, because you are still underneath English law, whether you know it or not. And it's yours if you want it or not. He described it in the English liberties as the best birthright the subject had. Care regarded the essence of this birthright as the privilege not to be exempt from the law of the land, but to be freed in the person and estate from arbitrary violence and oppression. First issued in England in 1680, English liberties had a longer and more significant reach in the American colonies. You hear that? So there's letting you know that English liberties are more significant here in American colonies. Why? Because this is England. England is here, brothers and sisters. Over there is the overseas possession. But here in America, this is where the empire dwells. It played an important role in spreading concepts about English law, history, government, liberties, and especially juries. Colonists found in Care's English liberties support of their views about the Saxons. Magna Carta as a reaffirmation of old laws guaranteed the rights of all free men and ways to protect themselves against oppression. So as you can see, our ancestors and those who have come and gone have always tried to maintain our liberties, our freedoms, but we must remember who they are and what they were and be those people in this day and age for us to not succumb to what they were fighting against, which was oppression and tyranny. All right, so if you don't want to be these people, then you're going to suffer something that these people were fighting against, because those people were fighting against it, had their rights and liberties preserved in the laws that you know nothing about. All right. And we're going to take care of the next look. And this is a rare map, 1695, Morton Harris map of the English Empire in America. Exceptional separate issue propaganda map promoting British interest during the reign of King William's War, as they say. But the map, as you can see, is $17,000. So let's take a look at it. As you can see, this encompasses what we would call the eastern seaboard of the U.S., or the eastern seaboard we'll call North America, as well the northern part of North America and the territory they call Canada, that they historically call New France. And you see part of the Midwest territory, what they call New France, and so on and so forth. But we know, according to the 1609 Second Virginia Charter, that they considered the whole landmass Virginia, or AKA, English territory. All right. And what the map says, a new map of the English Empire, a new map of the English Empire in America. Virginia, New York, Maryland, New Jersey, Carolina, New England, Pennsylvania, Newfoundland, and New France, etc., by Rod Morgan. So New France, the English Empire, was also in New France. Why? Because the kings of England were also too the descendants from the Kingdom of France. And so they were also claiming their estate underneath New France, which entailed, or which made part of the empire, or part of the English Empire underneath their rights and prerogatives as heirs of the throne. This is showing you, brothers and sisters, they knew what they were doing back then. That's the reason why these wars were taking place. It was all in fight in regards to ownership over property that either was yours or wasn't yours. And they knew that they used to live here, going all the way back to ancient time. That's the reason why they were coming over here to this territory to claim ownership based off of ancient rights and customs, because they were claiming themselves as being descendants. All right, let's continue. Now we get to the 1297 Confirmation of the Charters Act by King Edward the First. All right, and I think this is where I'm going to end at. I'm not going to read all of it, but I'm just going to read the beginning of it, the preamble, and the first clause, because we always know the first clause is always the most important. So the preamble: Edward, by the grace of God, King of England, Lord of Ireland, and Duke of Guyenne, to all archbishops, bishops, we have seen the great charters of the Lord Henry, sometimes King of England, our Father, of the liberties of England, in these words: Henry, by the grace of God, King of England, Lord of Ireland, Duke of Normandy and Guyenne, and Earl of Anjou, to all archbishops, bishops, abbots, priors, earls, barons, sheriffs, provosts, officers, and to all bailiffs and other our faithful subjects, which shall see this present charter, greeting. Now ye that we unto the honor of Almighty God and for the salvation of the souls of our progenitors and successors, kings of England, to the advancement of the Holy Church and amendment of our realm, of our mere and free will, have given and granted to all archbishops, bishops, abbots, priors, earls, barons, and to all free men of this our realm, these liberties following to be kept in our kingdom of England forever. All right, so even though this is done in 1297, it says in the kingdom of England forever. We just already showed the map that also shows you that the English Empire is also here in America. So this pertains, and when we also read from the brother Henry Kerr in regards to the English liberties or the freeborn subjects inheritance, and how this is more significant in the American colonies. All right. So this is more significant, important for us to know this, which confirms the Magna Carta. And it says, Clause 1, first, we have granted to God, and by this our present charter have confirmed for us and our heirs forever, that the Church of England shall be free and shall have her whole rights. So the church is a woman, female, and we talk about the English Church of England, to have her whole rights and liberties inviolable. We have granted also and given to all the free men of our realm. So like it says, we got to be known as a free men of our realm, for us and our heirs forever. These liberties underwritten, to have and to hold to them and their heirs, of us and our heirs forever. So these are our rights and liberties preserved by our forebears, by our kings, going all the way back to ancient antiquity. But we're going to talk about now going since 1199 and preserved from 1215 and re-solidified in 1297 underneath King Edward the First from the Royal House of Plantagenet, who just showed you an image of this Edward the First, Edward the Primus, so the Edward the First, how he looks, who preserved our rights and liberties that's still recognized here in America, which is the English Empire. As you can see, a new map of the English Empire in America. Call it whatever they want to call it, but this is the map of the English Empire, in America. All right, that we have these rights and liberties still preserved because we are those descendants. So like I said, heirs for these liberties underwritten, to have and to hold to them and their heirs of us and our heirs forever. So brothers and sisters, you need to go and read what all rights that you have that is still recognized as you being an heir, but you must do the work to prove that this is who you are and be these people. Don't try to be anything else. Don't try to find different ideologies that these people don't believe in because it won't work. You're putting yourself outside the box. Put yourself back inside their shoes. And then you can inherit all that is given to you, but you can't inherit someone else's stuff, especially if this is not who you are. You don't want to be them, that's fine and dandy. But for those of you who are doing the great work, who have been following along, King Edward I has solidified our rights, going all the way back to Quia Imperatoris. I mean, like I said, the statutes are there for us to maintain um, what it is that they fought so hard to set in stone for us to be able to live in peace amongst each other. So that being said, don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to try to do more videos as we come along, but I have to thank the ancestors, the Most High, for putting this on my heart for me to do this video. Hopefully you as brothers and sisters able to follow along with it. It's a lot of information that you have to pick up, but once you pick it up and comprehend it, it's very easy for you to live the life of who your predecessors set the world, in place for, and that is you and I. So with that being said, I love you. Stay tuned. Take care of yourself. Make sure that you're looking out for your loved ones. Make sure you continue to keep doing great good deeds and acts of kindness. And we'll catch you on the flip side. I'm out.